Words can't really explain how free I feel now that I don't have any debt.
I believe in this philosophy of what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed, so I make sure I'm tracking my money.
Money by itself really won't make you happy.
My experience with money was seeing my family hustle, and now everyone's doing really well.
Ever since I was a little kid, I saw people on TV and I saw people living great lives, and I said, why can they have it and why can't I? Like, what makes them so special? Hi, my name is Sanchez. I'm 24 years old and I make $230,000 a year. I didn't have to go to college to become a lineman, but I just had to pass preliminary objectives and prerequisites and just a bunch of climbing and physical assessments. Being in this field, you're away from family a lot. You will miss the birthday parties, you will miss the special occasions, but it's part of the job, and that's why it's so rewarding, because you get multiple weeks where you will put in multiple hours of overtime, and that definitely helps us out a lot. I used to budget precisely, like I would write down all my expenses, like what I spent money on for the month, but it was just taking too much energy. I didn't think it really made sense for me to like nickel and dime everything. I don't spend money on things that have no meaning. I live in West Chicago. It's a suburb 40 minutes west of Chicago. I've lived here my whole life. I'm perfectly content with living where I'm at right now. It's a win-win. I get to help out my mom, and I can also help myself out by saving more money. Food is definitely one of my biggest expenses, even though most of the food is actually groceries. Live in the suburbs, I don't use any public transportation. I pretty much drive everywhere. I only have a 15-minute drive to work, but my girlfriend does live about 45 minutes to an hour away from me, so I do have to drive a lot to go see her. A recent splurge was this tattoo I started a few months ago. It's only about a third done. I still have a lot more to go, but so far I've spent about $500 on this tattoo, and I still have probably $750 to $1,000 more to spend on it. But it's just something that means a lot to me because it's actually going to be a memorial for one of my best friends that passed away last year. So I'm not going to penny pinch on something that's really important to me. One of my side hustles is a business I started 2 years ago. It's a lawn care business, and I started off just doing it myself and decided to hire my brother, and he definitely helped me a lot on growing the business. XL Lawn Care grosses about $10,000 a month, but after insurance, gas, maintenance on the equipment, and paying my guys, I keep about $1,500 to $2,000 a month. The idea of getting passive income and just having the paychecks show up every month just really fascinates me. The thing about rental properties is that they make so much sense just because someone always needs a place to live. I bought my first property last fall. I paid cash for that one. It was a $68,000 condo. The second property I bought, it was $92,000, and that was paid cash. My mom actually helped me on that one. I put about 65% of the money on that, and then plus I had to put in the money to fix up the place. My third property is financed with 20% down, a down payment of $15,000. Hi, Alex. I knew that if I was going to invest in real estate, I knew that I would need a lot of money. So I took on side hustles. I worked as much overtime as I could at work, and I just kept my expenses as low as I could. I definitely try to save as much as I can. It could vary month to month, but I try to save at least $7,000 a month. One of my big goals is I want to become a millionaire by the age of 30, which I still think it's gonna happen, and just because I have a plan of acquiring 4 properties per year for the next 5 years. So by the age of 30, I wanna have 20 units. I think with my income and with my savings rate and investments, I think I will be at that. I feel like I have to give back to my parents because, you know, they came here as immigrants and they came here to give us, you know, the kids a better life. So I know all the sacrifice and pain that they went through, and it's my duty to give back to them. Everything I do is pretty much for them.
I think part of the reason why I save so much comes from what I've learned from my parents. We never took vacations. We only went to the library. That was our vacation. They were basically just very frugal, and that carried on to me. I try to be pretty frugal. Hi, my name is Bukola, Ayodele. I'm 25 years old, and I make $210,000 every year and live in New York City. I'm a software engineer working in the fintech space and building tools and applications for engineers. So I'm actually obsessed with tracking things. Like, I track my calories, I track my workouts, and I also track my money. I believe in this philosophy of what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed. So I make sure I'm tracking my money every single month. And how I track my money is I use YNAB and I also use Personal Capital. I also have spreadsheets for my long-term goals. So I just make sure that every single month I'm allocating a little bit of money to hit those long-term goals. The total rent for the apartment is about $4,000 and my room costs about $1,400. This is actually the most I've ever spent on rent, and I was a little mad to spend this much on rent, but the area is really nice and it's even closer to work, so I kind of save time in my commute. So I was born in Nigeria and I moved here when I was 6 years old. And we moved into like an inner city neighborhood when we first got here. And my parents really hustled and worked hard to get us to a better neighborhood. Growing up, my parents really valued education, and they really pushed my sister and I to pursue very traditional career path. In our house, we had a saying that you could either be a doctor, a lawyer, or a disgrace. I actually majored in political science in college with the hopes of becoming a lawyer, but after working in a law-related field, I realized that this was not for me. So I looked back at classes in college that I really liked, and one of the classes I really loved in college were my computer science classes. I decided to quit my job and do a sabbatical. During my time doing a sabbatical, I joined the Recurse Center. The Recurse Center is sort of like an engineering retreat where you can learn how to program and just sort of build new projects. It was totally free, and it took 3 months, and then after that, 3 months later, I got a job. I got so many rejections left and right, and I just had to learn to just be a little bit more persistent and to keep pushing. We're getting our account balance, and then we're just returning self-dot accounts. So it's just easy. It can be kind of a little isolating to be the only Black woman, but I really just try to connect with other Black women and people of color in the software engineering space. I've been stopped a bunch of times from entering my job because they thought I just didn't work in the building. It's just crazy that things like that happen. Tech and software engineering is a really great career path. You get to work on really amazing projects, and you can earn a really good living doing this. $200 goes towards groceries and $100 for eating out. I grew up on meal prep. My mom always made us some jollof rice in the house, so I usually meal prep my meals. That's good, okay, good. Me and my friends, we do other things other than just like going out for dinner and like brunch. So instead of grabbing dinner, we'll just do a class pass instead and like go to a dance class. Or I just invite friends over, sometimes we'll just cook together. It's just a way for all of us to save money. I only left school with about $7,000 in student loans was because of two factors. The first factor was the fact that I got needs-based financial aid from my college so that my tuition and room and board, half of it was paid and covered for by my school. The other half was covered for by my parents, and they gave me probably one of the best gifts that I've ever gotten, which is the gift of a free education. They took on the burden of carrying like our loans, but they were able to pay it off through just being really frugal. My parents just always donated like 10% of their salary. They see that as like a gift to God. So they've really encouraged me to do the same thing. So some of that money goes back to my parents because they've done a lot for me, and the remaining goes to like other organizations that I really care about. I love exercising so much. Exercising has helped me like live in New York City. It's honestly one of the most stressful places to live in, but maintaining an exercise routine really helps me reduce my stress and really helps me with my mental health. So I really love spending money on beauty. For me, my beauty budget entails like sometimes I get my nails done, sometimes I get sugared. I also really like hair extensions and buying new clothes. So I try to keep my beauty budget at about $300 every month. I try to be pretty frugal. It's funny because like when I first graduated from college, I was living paycheck to paycheck on my first salary, and it wasn't because I was making like too little, it was just because I wasn't being smart with my money. And it wasn't until like I wanted to leave my job that I realized the importance and the power of having savings. One of my long-term financial goals is to FIRE. I'm a huge fan of the financial independence, retire early movement. I think it's a really amazing movement. I don't necessarily know if I want to retire early, but it would be great to be financially independent. One of my goals is also to maybe own an apartment. I know in New York it can be crazy. Like in my neighborhood, a one bedroom goes for like $700,000 to $800,000, and that's just for a one bedroom. Something that I'm really passionate about is my YouTube channel called The Come Up. It's sort of a channel that I created to sort of give people the resources I didn't have when I was starting this journey. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. There are not that many Black women in tech, so I just wanted to sort of show that there are Black women in tech and just sort of provide as many resources as possible. I didn't really grow up getting to take international trips. We only traveled like to the libraries, so I kind of like do it to the max now. So I try to take one international trip every year with my boyfriend. I take girls trips with my friends. I'm also in a long distance relationship, so that like flying back and forth from New York to LA also adds a little bit more into my travel budget. Basically all of my family is in Nigeria, like all of my family except for like one of my uncles and my sister and my mom, my dad. And the opportunities I have here are significantly more than the opportunities that my cousins have. So that's something that I always remember when I'm feeling like down, is how lucky I am to be here and how many opportunities I have here than I having like in Nigeria. The most important lesson I've learned about money is that like money can just give you a lot of opportunities, a lot of options. Like in New York City, you're just constantly surrounded by like people who are extremely wealthy, but also people who are extremely poor. And then going to the college that I went to school with kids whose parents were millionaires and billionaires. So I could actually see like how money can give you like options and opportunities and the things you don't have to think about when you have a higher income. So that's part of the reason I try to work as hard as I can, just so I can also give myself and my family those opportunities.
Words can't really explain how free I feel now that I don't have any debt. I feel like a new person. I feel as if I could do anything. My name is Roy Patterson. I'm 31 years old. I make $118,000 a year and I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I think about money and finances about 90% of the time. Mainly, how can I make more money? How can I save more money? And what can I do with the money? Self-care is very, very important, and because of that, I spend a lot of money on skincare. As you can see, it looks good. Money plays a big part in my relationship with my girlfriend. I would say that she is more frugal than I am. So there will be times where we want to do things, but she doesn't want to spend the money on it. I'm very cognizant of the things that we talk about and how we budget our money. I try to help her as much as I can, but I also know that she has to go through her own journey as well. I tend to take on the more of the 60% to 40% tactic where I'll pay 60% of the bills and she'll take on 40% depending on what it is. I just started to get serious about paying off my debt, I would say my senior year in college. I felt that my parents did the ultimate sacrifice by putting their names on these student loans. And so if I didn't pay that off, that's something that they would be straddled with. I used to watch the Susie Orman show every Saturday at 9 p.m. I really took that to heart and kind of used her as my unofficial mentor to really stay focused and stay motivated to really start my debt repayment. One person who was by my side the entire time was my mom. We started watching Susie Orman together. She was looking to pay off her credit card debt, mortgage, car bills, and just miscellaneous items. We really held each other accountable in order to make sure that we accomplished getting rid of all this debt together. So growing up, I played a lot of The Sims on my laptop, and one day I found out that it came out for my Xbox One. So I ended up buying it and falling in love with that game all over again. So that's my little girl. They have money trees. Once they sell the fruit, they get about $8,000 per fruit. I actually spent a lot of money buying the expansion packs for the game. My girlfriend loves The Sims more than I do. She will play in 8-hour sprints. During the week, obviously we have like work and we try to be as productive as possible, but if it's a long weekend and we don't have anything to do, The Sims is on and we're gonna play it. So being a child of immigrant parents definitely affected the way that I saw money because I know how hard my parents had to work to make the money that they did have. Every need that we had was met. Every want, we had a discussion about it. Why did you really want it? How valuable is this? That really shaped my relationship with money. One of the things that I really got into recently was cooking a lot of Jamaican dishes. Being from a Jamaican background, my dad did a lot of cooking for us and we didn't really go out as a kid, and that's one of the things that I hold near and dear to my heart. So I started this career actually by accident. I went to school for business management, and I had a friend who started an internship at Cigna, and she told me about this program called the Technology Early Career Development Program. I grew up in Connecticut, and I actually started working at Cigna in Connecticut. And then around 2015, I felt the need to kind of expand my wings and try something new. And I knew that Cigna had a big presence in Philadelphia, and so it seemed like a good fit. My salary has gone up about, I would say almost 80% since I started about 7 years ago. In order to help with the move to New York, I put in a budget of about $10,000 to help with that. Work is also going to provide a relocation package as well. With the relocation package, I will also have my savings to pad the move to New York. Now that I'm debt-free, some of the goals that I have is to start really diversifying my portfolio. One of the things that I'm working on right now is saving up enough money to buy my first rental property. One of them is Personal Capital. It's an app that I subscribe to where it allows me to track all my investment accounts and all my bank accounts. And then I also use Mint to track my day-to-day expenses. I think that I'm good with money. I believe I'm good with money. You know what? I know that I'm good with money.
There you go.
My friends look at me as their financial guru, where they come to me with their specific problems and I help them break it down into a manageable portion. The most important thing that I learned about money is that money doesn't make who you are. Money brings out either the best or worst in what's already in you.
Coming from a family that's a family of immigrants, where we were 3 families in a one-bedroom in Brooklyn, I didn't learn about money growing up. My experience with money was seeing my family hustle, and now everyone's doing really well. Hi, my name is Dijana Ilieva. I'm 34. I make $150,000 a year, and I live in Manhattan, New York City. I started my agency after getting laid off from a corporate job. I've been pretty fortunate. It really ranges when you're freelancing and working for yourself. I mean, I would say my biggest expense every month is my rent. I do have health insurance. I pay about $400 a month for it. But even with that $400, you know, prescriptions are a ton, but just have to have health insurance, especially when you're in your mid-30s. The challenges of having your own agency, there's so many. One, just being used to that Friday direct deposit, having to really know where every single dollar is coming from. Another challenge is just money management for me, putting aside money to pay your taxes every year, and also just knowing your worth. I think that was something that I learned a lot. You know, you start doing designs for like $200–300, and then you realize there's people that are doing this for hedge funds that are charging like $100,000 just for a logo. My experience with crypto, I have to thank my little brother, Yeton. He was on it very early on, and he told me to invest in Bitcoin a couple of years ago when it was About $1,000, maybe a little less, and I liquidated at $19,000. He called me and said, "Get out." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You will never see a return on anything like this in your life again." Putting a little bit of money into it, you know, here and there, and kind of having a very diverse portfolio. I have a 401k, I have a retirement plan. Throughout college, I actually worked at Safeway for 5 years when they were union and the #2 company to work for behind Starbucks. So that's all been building since then, and every time I have taken a corporate job, whether it's been for a little bit or been on my own, I'm always putting into that fund. If I do an event and you know, I bring in 20 grand from it, obviously I'll put aside a portion of that. And then there's months where I'm not putting anything aside. I was just so fortunate to be a hustler, like finding ways to save on everything. I do go to a very expensive gym and provide them liquor for their monthly mixers, and I'm fortunate enough to get a comp membership there. And I think just that hustle growing up here in New York and coming from a family that's a family of immigrants, all of that was instilled in me at such a young age, and really preparing yourself. Right now, we are going to see Kristen, who is my partner in #lunchbag, because we have a meeting about this weekend's event. You know, you make sandwiches, we distribute them to the homeless. We started with just making 100, now we're making almost 1,000 every month. It's just nice to be able to do something that can put a smile on someone's face that we take for granted. Every dollar I spend, I think of how I can make like $3 to cover it, you know, and that's always in my head. I buy a purse for $200 and I'm like, where am I gonna make $500 tomorrow? My goal is to retire by 40. I always say if you live in Manhattan, you have to hate yourself a little bit. You know, it's not easy to live here. So I'm really working up to taking everything I made here and enjoying the rest of my life somewhere else. So I never felt like I was great with money, and the more I talk about it, the more I realize you hear where you can do better and where you can spend less. The fact that I am debt-free and live alone in New York, I've been pretty good with money the last couple of years.
My name is Todd Baldwin. I'm 27 years old. I live in Seattle, Washington, and I make $615,000 per year. Money by itself really won't make you happy. All it is a tool. It's to get you what you need, it's security, and you know, it can provide you a great life, but it doesn't buy you happiness like people think it does. Out of the $615,000 we bring in, we invest almost all of that just back into the business, back into more real estate, or into different brokerage accounts. So we don't actually see a lot of that because it's all invested out. But yes, it's a very comfortable lifestyle, and it helps that we're incredibly frugal. all for free. I earn the bulk of my money through real estate investing. We bring in about $460,000 per year doing that, and about $150,000 as profit, and that is after living completely for free and all expenses are paid. We bought our first house at age 23. We are now 27, and we have $4.4 million worth of real estate. So some people think that the hardest thing about real estate will be either insurance or taxes. Luckily, I work in insurance, and my wife is a CPA working in tax. So my wife and I live completely for free by house hacking and having roommates. So we live in a brand new duplex, and we have the other half of that duplex on Airbnb, and we live in the main half. We also converted one of the garages into a studio apartment. We have that on Airbnb as well. And in our main unit, the half that we live in, we have roommates. So we rent out one bedroom for $1,200 and another bedroom for $850. After living in our duplex completely for free by renting out the other half, the downstairs garage, and the bedrooms on our side, we live completely for free, plus we make $1,850 in profit. I was raised by a single mom, and I watched her struggle working 4 jobs to try to feed 3 kids. And she was worried all the time about money, and I saw it and I could feel it, and it wasn't a good feeling. And from a very early age, about 12 years old, I told myself that that's not something that I wanted in my later years, it's not something that I wanted for my family, and I had to make a change and do something different. I got my first job literally shoveling manure for $3 an hour, and I came home one day and I think I counted up $6 worth of quarters, and at the time it was more money than I personally had ever seen. And ever since that moment, I was like, all right, I've got to make millions of dollars, I've got to be successful, I got to get my money right, and I've been on that track ever since. I started making money online when I was 15, and then I started investing at age 19, but I really just, through reading books, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, I really just kind of had to figure it out and learn as I go. When I first got into the commercial insurance business, I had a salary of $50,000 and I was making 9% commission on sales. After my first month with that firm, I actually broke a record for the most amount of appointments set via cold call. After about 9 months with that firm and doing really well there, my base salary went up by about $4,100 per month, and my commissions went from 9% to 40%. When I was 12 years old, I had the goal that I wanted to become a millionaire by the age of 30. And after working like crazy and investing and acquiring properties, our net worth crossed $1.2 million when we were 25 years old. Some of the things I refuse to spend money on will probably be eating out and movie theaters, but only because I know how to get paid for that. I'm so frugal that I can't fathom spending money on that stuff. So in my mind, it makes sense to get it for free and get paid to do it. They will hire mystery shopping firms to find independent contractors like me to basically go pose at their establishment as a regular customer, buy the product or service, and then report on that product or service when you get home on an online platform. And when you do that, you get reimbursed for whatever you bought, plus typically some profit on the top. We have a punch card. So our free coffee is adding up to an additional free coffee. So it's like compound interest basically just on free stuff, which is mind-blowing. When I was in college, I was completely broke. And my wife now, but girlfriend at the time, I wanted to take her out, but I didn't have any money. It took me 2 months of saving just to take her out on our first date. And 2 weeks later, I got a check in the mail. And ever since then, we've been going to different restaurants and, hotels, resorts, casinos, getting paid for all of that, and getting reimbursed for what we spent. Life to date, we've made just over $30,000 by secret shopping. The best part is, it's stuff we would otherwise do. I grew up in Washington State. I met my wife in college. Although our net worth is 7 figures, we don't do a lot of the typical things that most people envision millionaires doing. We share one car, which is a 2009 Ford Focus. We are super frugal, and you know you're a real estate guy when you have $4.5 million of cash flowing rental properties, but you spent $12 on your wedding ring made completely out of rubber. I am not a showy or flashy guy, but I do want the Tesla Roadster. I don't want it, to go floss on Instagram or for anything like that. I want it because it's the fastest car in the world. I got a lot of places to be and zero time to waste. Personally, I would be okay flying first class and doing stuff like that. My wife won't let us, or she doesn't let us fly first class, even though we could very easily. So we're very frugal. We're not cheap, but we would just rather spend money on things that also make us money. We don't really like spending money on expenses. We could probably actually retire now if we wanted to, but our goals are so much loftier than that. I want my 6,000 apartments by the age of 60. So I don't know if I'm ever the type of person to truly retire in the traditional sense. If anything, I want to spend a little bit more money on my wife to surprise her or do something special for her. But she is so frugal that it usually doesn't go over well. So I ended up taking it back or ended up doing something else entirely. So this is gonna freak a lot of you out, and Dave Ramsey, if you're watching, don't have a heart attack. I have 13 credit cards, and I actually collect credit cards. Now, I don't carry balances on any of them. I use a strategy called credit card churning, which is basically opening up a new credit card, taking advantage of that new account bonus, paying it off completely, and then rinse and repeat with the next card. When we were converting our garage apartment into the Airbnb, I knew that there was going to be some expenses with that. So I opened up a new credit card where if you spend $1,000 in the first 3 months, you get $200 cash back. Now, I'm not telling anyone to go out of their way to spend $1,000 to make $200, otherwise that's an $800 loss. We would have spent that $1,000 anyway, so we might as well take advantage of the $200 that we can get in cash back. I used to box in high school. I was a boxer for 2 years. Now my wife won't allow me to compete, but I still do training when I can. My MMA gym is $100 per month, and although that's a little bit more, it's still well worth it for the training that I'm getting. Our LA Fitness gym membership is $30 per month, and that is well worth it because your health is your wealth. It doesn't make sense to be the richest man in the graveyard, so we gotta keep going to the gym and taking care of our bodies. In the next couple of years, my wife and I do want to start a family of our own, and being in that position of just knowing that, we can pay for their college wherever they go, and we can go on the family vacations, and the biggest thing is being able to be there and be a present father, I think is huge. It's a huge blessing that we've been able to accomplish everything that we have so far.
I'm a young father. It's not like I was given the silver spoon where I could work a 100K job. Found out to be that I was going to be a father by 18. So I had to choose whether I want to keep going to school or take care of my son. My name is Jesus Campos. I am 24 years old and I live in Brooklyn, New York. I was always having to work throughout my whole life. I've worked since I was 13 years old, back in the bakery of my grandparents. Then from there, school just started to fade away. And as soon as I was expecting a baby boy, I had to drop all the things from school and just go straight to work, make sure I have enough money to cover the costs of a newborn child. I was able to go back to school, get my GED, and then from there I just started going application to application. I lived in a family where we really didn't know too much about money, but we were really good at business. My grandfather knows how to do business, and then my parents really didn't know how to manage their money. My card payment is around $406. I normally use my card during the weekend when I go out with the family. I am saving up towards maybe $300 going towards 401k with my company. They do company match it by 50%. And then they do cap me at 2,000, but hey, it's free money. So I currently live with my in-laws, mainly because I'm trying to save up as much money as I can, move out of here. But because of the help of them, we're able to spend $400 a month in rent here in Brooklyn. The total cost of this apartment is $1,600. I prefer to stay here to minimize my expenses. Then from there, save up as much money as I can from investments and be able to put a down payment to a house. Hola, hermosa, ¿cómo estás? Say hi. My mother was able to sustain herself because my grandparents had run a mom and pop shop. It's a Mexican bakery. They have pastries, so she would work there, make very, very delicious cakes. Ever since then, we've just been 20 years in, and thank God that we have the opportunities and lifestyle because of it. Jay, you want some? It's a type of program where you ship in merchandise to Amazon and then from there they'll disperse it to the customers. My job is to buy things at a low cost and sell them as high as I can. And then from there, Amazon takes the product, puts it in their shelves, and as soon as someone clicks that buy button, Amazon wraps it up, puts it in a box, and ships it out to the customer.
So I normally come to Staples to buy business supplies, mainly for Amazon. Labels, tape, ink, anything basic that I need for my company.
This product right now on Amazon is $19.99, and I could price match that with Staples at $19.99 instead of paying $32.99, which then you'll save, you know, $12. So currently my wife hasn't been working because she had to take care of the kids.
Every day is different, it's never the same, but it's amazing. I get to watch my kids grow, you know, and I get to spend every milestone. It's fun, tiring, but it's all worth it.
It could get really hard to see someone else other than your mother in the house. My dad wasn't around. Obviously, my mom didn't have a choice. So I would love to give that back to my children. Me and my wife met when we were 13 years old. We hated each other. She just didn't like me, I didn't like her. We were like those type of rivals in school. But then all of a sudden, she just became sweeter, and I guess I became sweeter too. We started to hold hands, best feeling ever. And that's how it all began. We are high school, I guess middle school lovebirds, and that's how my children are here. Currently, my financial goals is to obviously move out from this tiny apartment. Living in Brooklyn, New York, I've been accustomed to living in such a small space where it doesn't really bother me, but my children will be getting older, so I do have to get a house pronto. So I'm considering of taking out maybe a loan from the 401k plan just to buy a house, and my plans is to go moving forward to Connecticut. Real estate is my goal from above, maybe until I become 28 is when I start doing real estate business. Right now I'm just focused on my Amazon business, and my goal really is to eventually I will expand and become an enterprise. From there, give my businesses down to my children and my children's children as legacies.